I had no retirement plan. My plan was to live fast and die young, but that didn't work out. So now I'm 50 and I have very little savings for retirement. These are the 3 steps that I'm taking to catch up. Stay tuned for step number 3, as it's been the most impactful. This comes with a typical disclaimer that this is not financial advice. This is just what I'm doing. And before you really go down this road, you really need a good base to start from. For myself, that's maxing out my 401k employer match. That's essentially free money that you would leave on the table if you weren't putting into that. A 3-month emergency fund is kind of a necessity in this day and age, in my opinion. And then also paying off any high interest debt, pretty much everything except for your mortgage. And when you do get these paid off, don't listen to Dave Ramsey, and don't cut up your credit cards. Those are going to be useful down the line as you can start to leverage credit in a responsible way. For me, the next step after this was to start a Roth IRA. And if you're in the U.S., these can grow tax-free, and when you go to withdraw in the future at 59 and a half, you can withdraw your money tax-free as compared to the usual 401k. A lot of people, including myself, were kind of hesitant to start these because you always had the what if I need that money. And the beauty of these is that you can actually pull your contributions at any time. So you shouldn't be afraid to start these accounts today and start getting money put into them. Especially with the way interest rates are now, a lot of these you can be earning 4% on your money just sitting there, even if you're not willing to or feel comfortable with investing it. The typical advice for these is just buy index funds and let it sit there for 20 or 30 years and just take the safe time in the market approach. For myself, starting at 50, and I don't have those 50 years or 30 years, and I'm sure a lot of you might be in the same boat. So for myself, I've done a fair amount of trading, and I use these to swing trade. So once you've been trading for a while and you're comfortable with the markets, you can actually swing trade in these, and it's a great vehicle to grow the account. You don't always have to be in the market. You can take advantage of crashes and dips, and if you just know some basic technical analysis, you can be pretty successful with this. And then you have your regular 401k that's out there in the traditional markets doing what the traditional advice is, that time in the market you just need to be putting in, and you're going to ride out any dips. And that's what my typical 401k is for myself. But for me, the Roth, it's savings, but it's also savings that I can grow. And if something does happen, I have access to that money penalty free. Make sure to drop a like if you're getting any value out of this. The second thing that I'm doing is cutting my monthly expenses. I know the typical advice is, cut your subscriptions and stop with the coffee and all that. But I mean, it's really true. And in the end, like the more you can reduce your monthly expenses, you can technically boost your retirement savings. And if you start doing any of these retirement calculators, where you're starting at 50 and you're starting to say, all right, I'm looking out 10 to 15 years, and if I invest X dollars a month, I expect to have this much in retirement. The numbers that people throw out there for starting late like this is a 50% savings rate. And I know that is a lot, But for me, what I'm concentrating on first is cutting my monthly expenses, because that's going to reduce what you actually need in retirement for your necessities. And as a latchkey kid, I would argue that you have some skills that you could probably leverage for this. For me, it's fixing those broken things instead of paying a contractor to come out and do it. The prices of contractors just keep going up. YouTube University, you can learn how to do most things yourself, and this is a great way to save money. Also, meal prepping and not eating out is really huge for myself. You can get creative with this and find some things in your budget where you can kind of make the numbers work. Another thing for me was setting up my solar. It was definitely more of a hobby and a labor of love, but I was able to set up a big enough system out here to actually reduce my electric costs significantly, um, by over 2/3. And what actually made this possible, this initial investment in the solar, actually comes from step number 3. So make sure you hang around for that. But all of these things together, they compound. It's not going to be one thing, but stacking these things and getting that number that you need monthly for your necessities, which you're going to need to figure out that number anyway for any kind of retirement calculators. It, it, it really does help. And this next one, number 3, this has been the most impactful in our catch-up process since we started so late. I've never bought a house that didn't need work, and that was the plan. We looked for undervalued properties in a good area that had good bones and just needed some cosmetic things. A lot of those cosmetic problems, kind of keep a lot of people from wanting to buy those houses because they don't want to put in the work, or they know how much it's going to cost to pay a contractor to do it, or maybe they don't know. But that most people want to be able to move into a house and have a turnkey house and live comfortably. So for us, this was the house with the pink toilets that hadn't been really had much upkeep done on it. So we were able to get in there in a good area with actually where it had a little bit, almost an acre in a suburb area where most houses were about 40 feet apart. And we were able to remodel the bathroom and paint it and change out the flooring and the fixtures and make it into something that, 5-6 years later, we were pretty much able to double up our money and pull out that equity and move on to the next house and pay off a lot of debt. And it was a really good stepping stone. It funded those next steps. I know real estate can be finicky, and people worry about getting stuck into a house, and that's definitely a valid concern. But one of the things this method helps with is its forced appreciation. You're not just buying at current market value and hoping the market goes up, because you can get yourself into trouble with that. With a lot of the market crashes that we've seen, people suddenly got underwater in their home's value and to what they owed. And when you get a house where it needs some work and you put in this equity, it gives you a little bit of a buffer. So if you do come into a downturn and you do have to sell it, you don't have to worry about being out of pocket to actually pay off that mortgage. I know there's a lot to real estate and kind of things happen, but for ourselves, this has really been a huge leg up in our catch-up plan towards retirement. And it's really a good compounding engine. If you're willing to put in the work and spend some time on YouTube University and maybe live in a house that's under construction. But it can be done, and it's well worth it, in my opinion. And that's what all three have in common. They're all compounding methods to help push towards that retirement. The Roth, you can grow your money tax free while still having that safety net if you do need to pull money out. Lowering your expenses, that's less money that you're spending, and it's less money you will need in retirement, and can be used to speed up your retirement plans. The forced appreciation by building equity in houses, that's your nest egg, where you can pull some strategies from that, maybe some HELOCs, but it's definitely compounding the more times you do it. And all this it's very Gen X stuff, not waiting for the system to hopefully fix itself and Social Security to be solvent and there. Now's the time where we might need to get a little creative, especially if you're a Gen Xer and you're starting a little bit late, like myself, starting at 50, playing the catch-up game. But slowly and methodically, you can close the gap. That's what I'm doing. Leave any comments below about any ideas that you have. Take care.